Good morning. I'm glad that you've joined me again this morning as we continue our study in the first letter to Timothy. I wanted to ask you a question today that you probably have some familiarity with. What was it like to have a child in church? Did you not tell him you need to behave? I know that every child I know of squirms like a worm on a hook. They can't sit still. They don't know what to do. They don't understand what's going around them. They don't understand the gravity of it. And yet we're expecting them to sit still. And we always will discipline and say, this is the proper way to behave in church. I've known parents who have either flicked the ears of children or reached over and took a big old pinch in their leg to get them to sit still. Sometimes I wonder how productive that was. You inflict enough pain that they have to move. But I've also seen fathers get up from a church pew, go down into the area where teens sit, and get a son who's been misbehaving. It is a terrible sense of embarrassment, one that usually teaches the lesson that there is a proper way to behave in church. One of the things that Paul writes the book of First Timothy is about is exactly what that. How are you supposed to behave in church? He says in the third chapter that this is what he's trying to accomplish, in fact, with the whole letter. I hope to come to you soon, but I'm writing these things to you so that if I delay, you may know how one ought to behave in the household of God, which is the church of the living God, a pillar and buttress of the truth. He says, I want to tell you, I want to do it face to face, but I need to send this to Timothy so he can instruct them. How do you behave in the church of God? What is the proper procedure? What is the proper things to do in our worship assembly and in our fellowship? What are those things that maintain the family uh, tenets and the family principles that God has established? If it is indeed his family, God's household, he gets to set the rules. Now that's going to become very important as we go through all of this. But the household has to be organized. The household has different roles. The household has different needs. The household needs to figure out how to help other people who are in need. All of those things are found in First Timothy. And beginning in the second chapter, you begin to see them come very, very quickly, and they become very prolific. So how is it that one is supposed to conduct themselves in the church of God? How is the church supposed to conduct itself? That's a key question. And Paul begins in today's lesson in the very first verse of chapter 2 by saying, first of all, then. Now, first can mean a couple things. One, it can mean the first of a list, first, second, third, without any kind of priority. And so Paul could just be remunerating things, say, well, I'm going to start here, but this is not any better than anything else. But that's not exactly what Paul does here. The word doesn't have the sense of just being idle, part of the list that he's making. This has the point of first of all, above all things, the most important thing that you're going to do, the most important thing that needs to happen is what I'm going to tell you. And he doesn't start where we usually would like to start. He says, first of all, above everything else, I want to urge you. I want to continually push you. I want to beg and besiege and instruct and do all these things. I want to come beside you and say, this is what needs to happen. This is something that is near and dear to Paul's heart. He knows that this is going to be the pillar of how the church functions. And if you don't do this, nothing else he says is going to make any sense. So he says, first of all, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people. Now, he covers the landscape of any kind of prayer there. Supplications is to beg for having something done for us. A prayer is is something that you would bring before a king or an emperor in an audience. Wish for the audience before them. Intercessions mean I pray on behalf of someone else and for their good or for something they need. And thanksgivings are just a reflection of how appreciative we are for the things that have been given. Prayers need to take all of those forms in some way. And if the prayer takes all those forms, it will transform the way prayers are done. They're just not wish lists given to God. They're not like a child's Santa Claus list. He builds his list that I want this, and I want this, and I want this. There's more to it than that. There is this expression before God of our needs, of our wants, of our desires for someone else, of how blessed we are and how grateful we are when we do that. It needs to have that kind of tenor and that kind of glow for it to be effective. But he says it be made for all people. But prayer, just as a sidelight before we get going further, prayer really is just an admission that we are completely powerless over the conditions of this earth. Because if we had power, we could change them. But you see, we don't have that kind of power. I think one of the great problems of our time is we, especially in the West, especially in America, believe we can make more changes than we can. We have a certain amount of hubris in us to think we're more important, we're more powerful, we're more able. And yet, when a person prays, they pray with the attitude, I can do nothing about this situation. That's what prompts prayer. I can do nothing about this situation. It needs the power of heaven. So when Paul tells us to pray, he's basically saying, remember where your place is in this. You are not God. You cannot change things. Only God can present them to him. But he says, for all men. All men? All men? We might stop there and say, really? All? Everybody? Should you pray for people you don't want to pray for? If someone bloodies your nose, do you pray for them? And I don't mean do you pray that God will give them a bloody nose too, or that they'll get hit by a truck, or for all men? Do you pray for everyone? And yet that's exactly what Paul says. To, to start to strain that out and say, well, there are some that you pray for, but some I don't think we ought to be praying for. Well, it's not what Paul says. It's what we say. And so if we're going to follow what Paul has to say, if we're going to follow the divine guidance of text, we have to do what it says, not what we feel comfortable with. One of the problems we're going to face through this whole series is that there are a lot of things we don't feel comfortable with. Our culture doesn't feel comfortable with. Our upbringing didn't make us feel comfortable with it. But God says that's what I want. So we make decisions. Do we do what God wants? We do what we want. He says be made for all people. In fact, Jesus takes it over the fence and says it's even more than just a cursory, I hope you remember those people. He says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Now, how do you pray for people who persecute you? Should the Germans who were incarcerated in concentration camps in the Second World War have prayed for Hitler? Jesus says yes. We go, well, so we got to pray that they'll be killed soon or whatever. You got to be very careful because praying for your enemies, the verse before that says, you always heard said, love your neighbor but hate your enemies. Jesus says, no, you go beyond that. If we're praying for all men, all people, that means we pray for their good and for their health and for their profit, even when it's hurting us, even when we disagree, even when we despise that person. See, we should pray for those we don't like in the same manner as those we are close to. If you pray for your wife for her safety and her blessing, Jesus says that that's how you pray for your enemies. That's what Paul is saying here. These prayers need to be for all men in the same way you treat them all with prayer. It's the same way. Now, that's hard for me. I'm sure it's hard for you because I hear prayers in church sometimes that they don't mind praying for the good people of the world, but they want to scour the people they don't approve of. It's not what Paul says. Paul says prayer should be made for all men, and those prayers should not be differentiated. But then he comes down and he gets it even more precise. This is where it gets difficult. He says you should pray for kings and for all who are in high positions. Really? What do you pray for the king? Suppose you don't like him. Suppose you don't like the President of the United States right now. What are you going to pray? Are you going to pray on his behalf? What are you going to pray? You're going to pray, God, sick him. We want you to give him the scourge of humanity. Bring down a terrible disease. Put him in a casket. Is that what we're trying to say? Is that what Paul infers by saying you pray for kings and for all those in high positions? Should you pray for terrible leaders? Now, before you have a reflex that says, I don't think we can do that, remember something. When Paul writes this book, the Roman emperor is Nero. Nero is about as bad a scoundrel as you'll ever find. He's immoral, he's sensual, he's brutal. He starts the great persecution of the Christians within a year or so of this being written. He has killed men. He is a pervert. There is no redeemable value in Nero, by the way. And that's why people name their children Nero. Have you ever noticed that? There's nothing redeemable in him. There's no good spot. There's the story told about the guy that appeared for parole, and the parole board voted 3-1 to keep him in prison. They asked the other guy, said, man, this guy's a terrible guy. He said, yeah, but he can whistle nice. I don't even think Nero could whistle nice. And so Paul says to pray for kings and those in high position. And he's putting this in the mix. You pray for the Neros of the world. But why? What do you pray for? Do you pray against them? Do you pray for their demise? Do you pray to get rid of them? I'm afraid that in a politically charged culture, we kind of fall into the trap of we're going to ask God to take care of our problems for us. But that's not exactly what Paul says to do. He says that we may lead peaceful and quiet lives, godly and dignified in every way. He says when you pray for the king or you pray for the rulers, you pray in a way that will allow them the ability to give the gospel the chance to survive and live. All we want to do, Paul says, is live a quiet life. All we want to do is live a peaceful life. We want our insides to be quiet and our outsides to be peaceful. We are not revolutionaries. We are not firebrands. We don't carry torches somewhere. We don't arm ourselves and go out and try to do things that we think are right to take care of governmental problems. He said we want to live quiet and peaceful lives. He said the way we accomplish that is by praying for the authorities so they can give us that. because we also want to have godly and dignified life. Our lives need to reflect the sense that God is with us. And whatever God is doing, that's what we need to be doing. That means you really got to know God better. He says in every way. So he says, I want you to do that. Now, how how can you do that with someone you totally despise who's in leadership? In our world, in our culture, we have an elected system of government. So we can change it through the ballot box. Regardless of what people say, that's the preferred method. That is the specified method in the United States. And we have to trust that that's the way it's going to be. But when what happens if someone gets to be the president of the United States and you don't like him, you don't like his policies, you don't like what he does, you think he's a scoundrel, you need to have him skinned and quartered? Well, maybe we need a little guidance in this. How did the early church hear what Paul had to say? And how did they apply it? See, the closer you get back to Paul, the more you understand it and the more application you can make properly. In the 3rd century, there was a teacher, his name was Tertullian. Tertullian was a lawyer by training, but a preacher by temperament. He lived in a time where Septimius Severus was the emperor of Rome. Severus was another evil man. He would kill men just to get their wives and then kill the wife so she could find another one. He waged wars about everybody, and if he found out you were a Christian, you were going to be persecuted. He had no respect for God or man. He's not exactly what you would want to live with. And you might say the only way we can have a peaceful and godly life, a peaceful and quiet life, is for him to be out of here. But Tertullian, when he reads these things and he tries to counsel the church about what Paul wanted us to do, here's what he says. We pray for our rulers, for the state of the world, for the peace of all things, and for the postponement of the end. And he continues to write, the Christian is the enemy of no man, least of all the emperor. For we know that since he has been appointed by God, it is necessary that we should love him and reverence him and honor him and desire his safety together with that of the whole Roman Empire. Therefore, we sacrifice for the safety of the emperor. Tertullian says, we want the emperor to be healthy. We want him to be good. We want to honor him. Why? Because God put him in power. Now, we can argue that point all you want to, whether a person that you don't like in power is really God's representative. But Paul in Romans chapter 13 says, yeah, he is. If he's there, even if he's the worst human being on the face of the planet, if God put him in power, he is God's representative for law and order. There is no disputing that. Now, we may not like it again. We may chafe at that. But that's what Paul says. Now, why do we do these things? He said, first of all, because it's good and pleasing in the sight of God our Savior. God wants us to. That's what pleases God. And the reason is because God desires all people to be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. He says that God is redemptive. God doesn't want to punish, God wants to save. God doesn't want to destroy, God wants to save. So even the worst, you need to pray that the conditions will become where they too cannot become an enemy but become a brother. That is extremely difficult when that happens. But remember something, if our prayer seeks someone's harm rather than their redemption, that's not in harmony with the heart of God. Because if God wants everyone to be saved and want someone to be dead, those are two different things. So as we come to this, we pray. When we pray, we ask for what helps Christianity to flourish, not for my personal desire to be met, not for my personal agenda to be taken care of, not for my political preference to come about. God has bigger plans than what we have. But all this happens for a reason. Paul says, "For there is one God and there is one mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus, who gave himself as a ransom for all, which is the testimony given at the proper time." Paul says there's only one mediator. Now, this was something the Jews found foreign. They thought there were a lot of mediators. They figured there were these angels there, and the angels would come and they would mediate between man and God. And they had developed that idea not because of Scripture, but because of some writings before the birth of Jesus. That you have this angel and he's going to take care of you and he's going to be the mediator. Now, that comes over into popular culture sometimes, such as the Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life. But what Paul says is there's a single mediator. Now, what's a mediator? A mediator is someone who stands in the middle and can understand both sides and can bring them together to find the best solution. It says that Jesus is the only mediator. He is the Son of God, so he knows how God thinks. He knows what God wants. He knows the heart of God. He is divine. But Paul makes sure he says the man Jesus. Why? Because Jesus has been a man. And if Jesus is a man, he understands who we are. He understands what we need. He understands our failings. And so he and God come together. He brings man and God together so that man can be saved and that God can save him. There are three things that are in this passage about Jesus. And the reason we continue to pray is because of that power. First of all, he is a bridge builder. He builds the bridge between God and us. When we need to come to God, it is only through Christ. If you don't have Christ, you don't get to God. That's what it means, is that he's the only bridge across the great chasm between God and man. And that's why we need to help people to believe and obey and be washed in the blood of Christ, because that's the only way for them to cross the chasm. He is the bridge builder. But secondly, not only did he build the bridge, he built it because he's the payment for it. We have no power over our salvation, because the first sin might as well be the last, because one makes us unclean. We have to be cleansed, and the blood of Christ on the cross has cleansed us from our sins when we obey him. But the third thing this says is he's also the witness. There's going to be an appropriate moment. That's what Paul says, at the right time, in the proper season. He will be the witness. He will tell people, he will tell God, I testify that this person has contacted the blood of Christ and is a child of God. He will be the only witness that counts. A man's plea won't make any difference, but Christ's plea will. For that reason, Paul says, that's why I do what I do. He says, I was appointed a preacher, a herald, and an apostle. Paul uses two words. I spread the message like a herald standing on a street corner saying, hear ye, hear ye. But I'm also apostle. I am the one who has been authorized by Christ himself to take his message to someone else. So when he preaches, they hear the words of Christ. He says, I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying. A teacher of the Gentiles in faith and truth. I've been appointed to do this. The reason I do it is because God has made me this because I believe this is what God wants me to do. Now, what is prayer's priority in the church and in our lives? I think kind of as we reflect on this, there are some things that kind of come to fruition and come to the top out of this little discussion. First of all, that prayer drives home God's power and our weakness. There's no way to pray if you think that you are powerful enough. You end up lecturing God at that point. Prayer is of a broken person who has no ability, who cannot change the situation, and only God can. It recognizes how powerless we are. Could it be we don't pray because we don't want to think of ourselves as weak? That we can't do anything on our own? That's our cultural manifesto, if you don't understand it, that you have the responsibility to make this world the way it is. Our responsibility is to build a child of God and let Him reshape it the way He wants it. Prayer tells us, when we pray, that we don't have the power and only God does. But the second thing is, prayer changes us as much as it changes the world. One of the interesting things about prayer is that prayer on behalf of someone else may not change them, but it will change you on how you feel about them. You cannot continue to pray for someone. You cannot continue to pray for an enemy and he'll stay your enemy. You cannot pray for someone you despise and you will continue to despise them. Not true prayer. Because it will change you. It will change your attitude. It will change your heart. Because if you're praying for the good of someone, you really do now want that. Prayer changes you. And one reason God wants us to pray above everything else is He wants us to be changed as much as the world to be changed. Because isn't it true that there are things inside of each one of us that need to be addressed? Some feelings about other people that need to be touched on? A raw nerve that needs to be plucked until we can feel it? Prayer does that. Third, prayer demonstrates God's grand purpose. We pray because we believe that God can save anyone in this world. Anyone. He can change anyone in this world. He can change us. He can change the worst human being. The only reason we pray is because we think God can do that. Why bother praying if we don't think God can do that? And so we know that God has a bigger purpose than what we do. We want the immediate satisfaction. God wants the eternal consequence. But fourth, prayer acknowledges the gifts Christ gave us. By praying to God, we are going to a mediator who has paid the price, who has given the gift, who has built the bridge, and who one day will stand on our behalf and testify for us. When we pray, we're acknowledging the power and the position of Christ. So when we don't pray, we have lost all of that. So Paul begins his discussion of how to behave in the household of God by saying, above all things, pray for all men. Next week, we're going to get to a very thorny issue, and that is an issue which is roundly debated today, and that is, what are the roles of men and women in the church? So I know that you'll join me for that, and it might be a challenge for us all, but we'll try to tackle that next Sunday. Thank you for being with me. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week.